this is Cascade, and welcome back to the Way Door. This is my second ever podcast, and it is based on my Christian worldview. Today, I want to really kind of give you my testimony. And if I had to title this, I would call it Fulfilled. So, when I was a kid, I had two good parents. I went to church periodically. I'm thankful to my parents, but I didn't really know who Jesus was. I knew who the figure of Jesus was. I've seen pictures, although we have no photographic evidence of Jesus. The Shroud of Turin, some people might claim, but that's another topic. But I didn't really know Jesus. I didn't know who he was. I didn't know why he came. I didn't know why he was so famous. And I didn't know why he was so important. I had no relationship with Jesus whatsoever. When I turned 13, my parents were divorced, and I was living in a big city, millions of people. And I decided at that time to indulge myself in everything I thought the world had to offer. And so I did. I basically went through people, I went through things, I went through everything that I could think of, and I found some temporary happiness, but there was always something missing to me. So I never could find that ultimate fulfillment that I was looking for. Then I went away to college and I ran into a gentleman who basically became the person who led me to the person of Jesus. And I really respected this guy, but at first I thought he was a little bit kind of weird. He was really nice, super nice. And it was the first time somebody had kind of studied the Bible with me, but he did it in a way that wasn't like he was forcing things on me. He would have me read some stuff. I would ask questions. And he said, ultimately, you have to look in the word and let the word speak to you, let God speak to you through his word. And so I would do that. And I'd come back with more questions. And I remember one night he had asked me over to his house to have dinner with him. And I was a starving college student. So I thought, I hope they have pizza or something really good. And I was still kind of leery of Christianity. I wasn't leery of this guy. He just made me feel really comfortable around him. He just his demeanor. He wasn't trying to force anything on me, but there was something in his family that I saw when I went over there for dinner, and we had sandwiches, by the way. And I was kind of thinking to myself, I'm a starving college student. I'm just saying that I wasn't a starving college student, but I'm a college student. I want to have something good to eat. I thought he'd invite me over for some really good meal, but it was sandwiches, and I was kind of not put off by that, but I was kind of thinking this is kind of weird. You invite somebody over for the first time and you give them a sandwich and chips. But he wasn't really well to do. His wife didn't work. He had three girls at the time, three small children, three small girls. And we sat around the table, we prayed, and then we ate, and they started talking. And there was just something about his family that I was thinking to myself, he's got what I don't have. He's got what I have always been missing. And that person that he had was the person of Jesus. And so I started going to a adult Bible class, and I had a lot of questions, and I was reading a lot for the first time. And I remember one time after I'd been going there for several meetings, um, someone kind of posed a challenge about eternal destiny. Where would my eternal destiny be? And I knew right then where my eternal destiny would be. I would be away from the Lord if I had died in the position that I was at that time. I knew that I was a sinner. In Romans chapter 5, verse 6, Paul tells us that when we were utterly helpless, Christ came at just the right time and he died for us sinners. So I thought about that, and I knew that night that I was utterly helpless. I knew I could not save myself. Romans 3:23, Paul again says, "For everyone has sinned. We have all fallen short of God's glorious standard." So I knew I couldn't work my way into heaven. I knew that I had fallen short and there was nothing I could do. I was utterly helpless. And I picked up the Bible for the first time and started reading through it. And I started with Matthew. It's the first gospel account. And the first chapter is just genealogies. And I started thinking, maybe this isn't all it's cracked up to be. And I kept reading and I kept reading and I got to the Beatitudes, Matthew chapter 5. And I remember reading the words of Jesus and the comfort that he brought to my heart. And I remember weeping to myself. And I was all alone in my college dorm room that night. And I prayed to Jesus for the first time. I prayed to God and I surrendered my life. I really didn't know how to pray. I was just saying, I know I need you. I can't save myself. I'm in an utterly helpless position and I need you to come into my life. And I surrendered my life to Jesus at that night. And ever since then, I've been walking with the Lord. I'm still a work in progress. I've had ups and downs in my walk. But since that time that I accepted Christ into my life and I surrendered my life to his, I have been fulfilled. There has been nothing beforehand that could fulfill my life. It was only when I had a relationship with Jesus and got connected to him that I found fulfillment. C.S. Lewis wrote in Mere Christianity, "If I find in myself a desire which no experience in this world can satisfy, the most probable explanation is that I was made for another world." And I truly believe that is true. And I think that all of us instinctively know that outside of Christ, things are just not right. In Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verse 11, God says this in his word. He says, he has planted eternity. It's talking about God. He has planted eternity in the human heart. And I think that's exactly what I was just trying to express, that we intuitively know that outside of Jesus, outside of a relationship with Jesus, that we are lost and we have no fulfillment. We have no life. We have no meaning. And so it's only by surrendering your life to Jesus that I think a person can truly be fulfilled. And that's what God's word gets at over and over again. Finally, I want to leave you with this one verse. This is spoken by Jesus in John chapter 14, verse 27. And here's what Jesus has to say. And again, this has to do with fulfillment in life. And I'm telling you that it's only found in a relationship with Jesus. So John 14, 27, Jesus said, "I am leaving you with a gift, peace of mind and heart. And the peace I give is a gift the world cannot give. So don't be troubled or afraid." And that's what I was searching for my whole life. I tried almost everything I could prior to surrendering my life to the Lord. And I'm going to talk more about that later. I'm going to talk more. I'm sure people are kind of questioning, well, why are you playing these kinds of games? I will talk about that probably next episode. But Easter is coming up, a very important holiday, not just because it's a holiday, it's an important event that literally changed the world. It was the time that Jesus gave his life and shed his blood and took on the sins so that anyone who puts their trust in him can have their life fulfilled like I did. So I want to thank you for listening to The Way Door. And if you haven't read the Bible, if you haven't learned about who Jesus is, I would encourage you to pick up a Bible and study for yourself. Pick up the New Testament. I would encourage you to go to the book of John. I would encourage you to read through some of the New Testament letters. But for sure, look at the first 4 gospel accounts of Jesus, particularly the gospel account of John. So this is Cascade signing out for the Way Door. And until next time, I hope your day is a blessed one.